Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The Matchroom chairman Barry Hearn has had some sage words for Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, saying, "We call the shots at the end of the day. We have AJ." Obviously, with Fury and Wilder fighting to a controversial draw at the weekend, their profiles are up. They've been talked about across the globe, one for Tyson Fury's performance, two for the knockdowns from Deontay Wilder, and three the controversial results and other news stemming from that fight. So Anthony Joshua, who's been largely off the sort of radar for the past couple of months, he's popped up in recent days saying, "I want to fight either Wilder or Fury, but I'd like Wilder first." So Barry Hearn has come in behind this with his own comments, talking to TalkSport. And so we'll get to his comments first, and I'm going to go to the end of the article first because this is where some of the most interesting stuff is for me. But in terms of some of the comments to come from Hearn, just keep in mind with these, this is some of what I want to touch on sort of after the comments, is negotiating. And we have to bear in mind that the rematch between Fury and Wilder is not locked in yet. There's obviously a lot of talk of it. It sounds like it is in the works, but it is not signed, sealed, and delivered. So some of what we've been hearing from Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury in the past 24 to 36 hours certainly could come into the realm of negotiating tactics, because Anthony Joshua clearly wants a big fight for April 13th. Wembley, 100,000 seats on the line. He wants to fight Deontay Wilder in an undisputed fight. But if Fury and Wilder go off, do their own thing, freeze Joshua out, well, clearly he's looking elsewhere. But Barry Hearn, he is saying, "I heard Darren Goff talking about lineal champions on the radio yesterday. I have no idea what that is though. I think it's some kind of fantasy title we've made up. Like I'm king of the street or whatnot. The main thing is that the titles are with Joshua and Deontay Wilder. We call the shots at the end of the day. We have AJ. I'm sorry, but if you go to work and you're not happy with your wages, you'll probably change your job and look for a better deal." And elsewhere in this article, because, there's certainly a few things here. Anthony Joshua's first choice is Wilder because when you're collecting belts, which he is, he wants to be the unified champ. He'd love to fight Fury as well, but for now, I think Wilder is the one he wants. There's 3 or 4 options at the minute for us. Sooner or later, fight fans are going to get everything they want, but we won't be doing any silly deals, that's for sure. There's a lot of talk about the business is about money at the end of the day. It's not totally out of the window. This is bracketed Joshua and Fury. But look, they didn't sell out the Staples Center and the numbers were relatively low in regards to pay-per-view. If they did a rematch, of course, it would be much bigger and the prospect increases of them fighting AJ. When they get to the promised land, the land of milk and honey, that's when they fight Anthony Joshua. So both of themselves need to stop kidding themselves. We'd love the fight against either of them. It would be great for fight fans. AJ wants to be fighting the best, but not on silly terms. At the end of the day, AJ is the best heavyweight in the world and commercially head and shoulders above the rest. So that was Barry Hearn talking to TalkSport. So quite a few things to unpack there. And we have to bear in mind Barry Hearn, he is an accountant by trade, so when you do hear him talking, often it is in regards to the sort of money end of the game, and highlighted a number of times there. And sometimes I just wonder, because there is so much money involved and Joshua is clearly commercially a bigger A-side than Deontay Wilder has been and Tyson Fury. I just wonder though if that's going to hobble some of these fights, because money was one of the issues that sort of, ended the first negotiation with Deontay Wilder. Wilder's team felt they were being lowballed. They almost accepted an offer, but it didn't go through. So what's happened, we've seen Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder agree to fight. They've made quite a successful go of it, and it looks like they will be having a rematch in maybe May or June of 2019. We'll have to see on that front. But there is part of me that wonders, with some of these comments by Deontay Wilder, who says he wants the rematch with Fury above all else, And from the Fury camp, which is Frank Warren saying he wants the rematch with Wilder first. I mean, you have to wonder, because each side is saying different things at different times, even in recent days. And Fury, he has called out Joshua, saying, give the British public the biggest fight in British boxing history. Even Frank Warren, even though he said he wants the rematch, if you did a poll now with the fans for Anthony Joshua's next fight, what do you think would be on the top of the pops there? I'm sure they would want to see the top Brit fighting the top Brit. And there's all this negotiations now about who gets what percentage. It's really simple, this fight. It's 50-50 down the middle. And this is something that Tyson Fury and Frank Warren have been saying for a while. They've been wanting to get their share of the pie whenever they do face Anthony Joshua. And you would have to imagine, to some extent, after Tyson Fury's performance against Deontay Wilder, even though it's in the books as a controversial draw, he's now flavour of the month. He's returned home as a hero. People are talking very well of Tyson Fury, of his feats, powers of recovery, getting off the deck in the 12th. You'd have to wonder, what is Tyson Fury actually worth in a fight with Anthony Joshua now? Is 50-50 so outlandish now, given what's just happened, and he's riding the crest of a wave? They know it's going to be the biggest fight, a domestic fight that can be made, one of the biggest fights that can be made in all of boxing right now. So you'd have to wonder, Tyson Fury, how far away is he from 50-50 with Anthony Joshua? But Deontay Wilder, I'm not so sure that he is close to 50-50. I mean, it really depends on the final pay-per-view results. We're hearing over 300,000. That's with some other stuff to trickle in, stuff from digital platforms, movie theatres and whatnot. So it might get close to 400,000 buys, somewhere between 300 and 400,000 buys. And that's in the United States alone. Doesn't take into account the UK side of the equation. Plus, there's other international buys. Myself, I bought it here in New Zealand. But you got to wonder how much of this sort of posturing in public right now. So if Fury and Wilder are sort of talking up the rematch possibility, and Wilder doing so very much definitely, how much of that is posturing to try negotiate a better deal with Anthony Joshua? Because I'm sure that the communication lines are not closed, that if there's something can be worked out for April the 13th, and if it's the right deal, Fury's side, Wilder's side, they could probably jump in it, because like I said earlier, nothing is signed, sealed and delivered on a rematch right now. And if they're saying that they're looking to freeze Joshua out, do their own little thing, Wilder says it might be a trilogy. Well, that might just sharpen the deal from the Joshua side. And if Anthony Joshua cannot face either of these guys, and if it becomes a theme in terms of money is at the root of it, then over time that's going to become a bit of a perception issue for Team Joshua. Right now, though, he is a clear A-side in terms of commercial value, because he's got proven commercial value. He's bringing in the punters, he's bringing in the money. Sure, the pay-per-view is lower in the United Kingdom, but they're generating money galore. And this is why Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury needed to fight each other in some respects, was to build their own value, because it wasn't completely established what they were worth. But, this fight is going to do great value for them. And then, of course, a rematch, if they do hold one, well, they could potentially command 50-50 with Anthony Joshua after that fight. It really depends how big it would get if they have that fight. Right now, I'm not convinced that it's 50-50 with Anthony Joshua and either Fury and Wilder, but Fury probably is closer to 50-50 than Deontay Wilder right now. Fury is riding the crest of a wave. I just think that matchup with Joshua is probably, right now, given off the back of everything that's happened, maybe a bigger fight. But then again, you have to factor in United States pay-per-view. Obviously, Deontay Wilder can bring that to the table. I guess the other thing I have in my mind is, these things feel so close. And they are close. These fights can be made, but the stumbling block is money. And I just hope that money doesn't prohibit some of these fights that we know that we should see getting made. Because if it does, then in 10 or 15 years' time, we'll say they were greedy, they didn't make the fights, the fights were there, but it was money that got in the way. So there's going to have to become a point where if Fury and Wilder can't get their value up to what they are willing to accept for a deal with Joshua, there's going to have to be some give from either side, because Joshua will only be able to go on for so long and not fight one of these guys, because people are already saying, look, just make a deal. Even if it was 40%, 45%, maybe that's enough to get Deontay Wilder over the line. He clearly thinks he's worth more, but is he worth more? And these are the big questions in terms of the millions and millions of dollar question. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of weeks, because I have been looking out for Eddie Hearn to see what comments he would make after Deontay Wilder's statement saying he is only looking at a rematch. And that's just words at the moment. There's nothing that has been backed up in terms of a contract signed or anything like that. I'm sure Eddie Hearn will not be giving up until a contract between whoever is signed. So it'll be interesting to see where things go, because we could be in the midst of just negotiating tactics right now, public posturing for the sake of trying to milk a few extra percentage points in a deal. It could be that simple. I mean, it's boxing after all. It's cloak and dagger. You know, often what happens in public is different to what happens in private. It can be very smoke and mirrors, and then once the smoke clears, there's either a deal or there's not. And certainly, if there's not, well, Anthony Joshua, he's got other options. Fury and Wilder, they can go off and do their thing, but Joshua, it wouldn't be the fight that we want, but I'm sure he will still be in a good fight for April. Dillian Whyte, Jarrell Miller, there's a few other options, maybe a wild card like Vladimir Klitschko. If Klitschko did come out of retirement for that fight, I'm sure there would be quite a few people who would want to see it. But the question mark there is Vladimir Klitschko 2 years on, 2 years older, how good would he really be? We'll have to see, but if I was Anthony Joshua and I really wanted to make that fight and I felt it slipping away, then I would try to do more to make the fight. And that probably is giving up money. But Barry Hearn is saying they're not going to be making silly deals. But sometimes silly times call for silly deals. Maybe it is time for a 50-50 with someone, or at least something closer to that. Because history will remember if fights don't get made. I think we just have to keep that in mind. We've seen it time and time again. So many good fights that didn't get made over the years, that could have got made, but money got in the way. Okay, I'll leave it there. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.